wanted to do, excuse me, I just inhaled a mouthful of smoke. I wanted to do a review on my Condor primitive bush knife. It's made by Condor Tool and Knives. This particular blade was designed by survivalist Matt Graham. Quick specs, it's 13 and a half inches overall with an 8-inch blade. It's got a welded leather sheath here, and it's designed for a little bit more of a primitive style carry. This little lip here is meant to basically tuck in underneath your pants or a shemagh, and that's exactly how you carry it. There's not much dangling or moving around when you're perhaps running through the bush. Not that I do a lot of running in the bush, but it's a little bit more stationary, whereas my Tamagami, just for comparison as far as the carry style, flops around a little bit more. So the handle is made out of hardwood. You can see here obviously a knife this size is full tang. The thickness of the blade is 3 millimeters thick. The blade itself is 8 inches long, so this is a big blade designed to chop and move things out of the way. It's made out of 420 high carbon stainless steel, and it's got a blasted satin finish on it. As far as the hole that you see in the knife here, it's purely decorative. It's just meant to represent the eye of the condor. It actually does not serve any function, but you can see here at the tip of the blade, I'm not sure if you can see this little, I don't know what I'm going to call it here, divot or indentation of the blade. It's designed specifically to make a bow drill hole here. I don't particularly work with that skill set at the moment, but it's certainly nice to have a knife that could make that a lot easier in the event I do end up picking up that skill. So that's it so far. Now I'm just going to get into the actual details of working with the knife, some demonstration of how easily it chops and processes wood. So even after a couple of hours out here today pounding on wood, it has dulled the blade, but I can still get some curls here for a very, very ugly feather stick to get a fire going. But for a blade this size, you know, the finer details I don't think is its strong point. I think what this does is just process wood and then take care of things that need to be taken care of that perhaps a companion blade wouldn't do. So I can do feather sticks with this. However, I don't consider that the blade's primary strength. I'd rather bring with me a companion blade for finer detils like that. So I've got some pine here that's nice and aged, nice and dry. We'll give this a go and see how it batons. The piece of wood I'm holding on to is super uncomfortable, so let's see if we could make this work in spite of the fact that I'm not enjoying the handle on this. And there we have it. Beauty to baton with. I mean, it's like a mini hatchet. And some very nice aged dried pine, and it just burns through it super efficiently. I'll just show really quickly here as well what the indented tip is good for. Again, I don't practice bow drill fires, but this is one of the functions of the knife. Get a nice little hole there. See how well it chops. And there we have it. About an inch thick, inch and a half. Took it down in no time. Right, and high carbon means that it will work with a ferro rod. It's a little awkward to hold the knife this way and try and find a good way to strike it. So if I had to complain that about anything, that would be the one issue. It's much more comfortable to hold the knife this way. It's a little awkward to turn it around and try and firecraft with it. Of course I could use the blade, but the spine is sharp enough to do the job. So let's see if we can make this work. And there we go. We got our birch bark to take. So again, sharp spine, high carbon steel. It will help you with your firecraft as well. All right, and that concludes the demonstration. Really quick recap again. 13.5 inches long. It's a big knife with an 8-inch blade. It's full tang, hardwood handle, 420 high carbon stainless steel, and it's really good for chopping. We demonstrated batoning wood as well as chopping an inch and a half piece of pine. It's high carbon, which means it will work with firecrafting, and it's got a little divot here on the tip that makes it good for bow drill. It's quite honestly one of my favorite blades. If I had to give it one critique, and part of this critique is going to be based on how I use it. I do baton wood. I chop and I process wood with it. That means that you are going to have to work a lot harder to maintain a sharp edge. So right now the knife has become a bit dull from pounding through some pine. I don't know if that's necessarily a critique. I mean, if I was to not pound it through 3 to 4 inch logs, I'm sure I'd be able to maintain the sharpness a lot longer than what I do now. But that's the only critique. It doesn't keep its edge the best, in particular for something that is designed to be in the bush, chopping. I imagine, when this was first designed, Matt Graham spends a lot of time in rainforest and jungles, which means I'm sure when this knife was designed, it was meant to be chopping through things, clearing paths, processing wood. So I would like it to hold an edge a little better. Having said that, it does sharpen up pretty quickly and pretty easily. And to be quite frank, it's not terribly dull. I'm not going to be able to shave arm hairs with it right now, but if I still need to do a feather stick, it will do the job. I first purchased this knife purely just based on cosmetics. You know, the style of the knife, the style of the sheath, and how it was meant to be carried was very aesthetically pleasing to me. Now that I've had the knife, it's just absolutely a workhorse. It's one of my favorite blades. For this price point, I think if you're in the US, it still might be south of $100 US. I highly recommend it. One comparable to this blade would be the BK2. The Kabar BK2 is an absolute tank of a blade, but when I work with it, you know, I guess I have medium-sized hands. I get hand fatigue using that blade. This is obviously much lighter. I think it comes in at around 1 pound. And the way the handle is designed, I get a lot less hand fatigue, so I can work with this longer and more comfortably than other blades. So I hope if you stumbled across this, you enjoyed the review. Love to hear any comments or feedback on the knife or the review itself if you're an owner. If you're thinking on purchasing, I hope this helped make your decision. It's a great knife. Once again, I just want to stress, you know, sub $100 US for a full tang blade that's well constructed. You can't go wrong. Cheers.